My next thing is I was suffering from a cold 2 weeks ago when I was supposed to be on the show. And I got over that one. And yesterday I started coming down with another one.
You can't get another cold if you've already had a cold because your immune system gets fixed.
That's right. Except, the rhinovirus mutates readily, and so you can get multiple colds. Some diseases you can't get more than once, except for under certain circumstances. And one of the things that's happening right now, you all probably heard about the measles outbreak up in Washington State. So as of today, there have been a total in, I believe it's Clark County, a total of 65 cases confirmed. They're currently investigating one suspect case. In nearby King County, there's one additional case. But the epicenter of this seems to be Clark County. And of the 65 cases that they've had so far, 57 are unimmunized. They never had the MMR vaccine, which, by the way, if you get one of those, it's 93% effective at preventing disease. If you get two, that goes up to 97%. So these are unimmunized people, 57 cases. They have 6 cases that are unverified, so that means they can't verify their immunization status. So it could be that they're unimmunized, or maybe they had one or maybe even two.
And sometimes people are not able, like literally not able. It's not just a choice, like someone can't get the vaccine. Or you have situations where, someone is immunocompromised, regardless of what they can or can't do, where they just have, other issues going on, like a child that might be in, cancer treatment or something like that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And there are situations, like I said, especially with MMR, because it's a live it's a live virus vaccine, so it's a weakened, attenuated virus that can't live outside, a very narrow range, but it's really good at producing immunity.
So the good news is all these kids now have natural immunity, right?
Exactly, yeah. Because that's, all the anti-vaxxers are always saying, hey, it's so much better to get natural immunity to these diseases.
Well, that's what they told us in school, right?
Yeah, when they were handing
giving us the vaccines.
handing out these vaccines for these diseases that kids have been dying from. Okay. So I have in my hands a paper from Science Magazine. It was published in 2015.
Oh, yeah, 2015, okay.
And it's the title of it's kind of long. It says, Long-Term Measles-Induced Immunomodulation Increases Overall Childhood Infectious Disease Mortality, which basically means that if you get the measles, infection with the measles makes your body forget how to fight other diseases that you may already be immune to. So if you had chickenpox last year and you get the measles this year, you're now susceptible to getting chickenpox again. And all these other diseases.
They didn't teach me that.
Yeah. So much for natural immunity, right?
Yeah. And so much for basic single sentence understanding of the whole immune system.
Yeah. Well, you just need to eat healthy fruits and vegetables and boost your immune system and you'll be fine, right?
There you go.
Yeah. So.
That's scary. That is some frightening work.
Yes. And so they had noticed that some researchers had noticed that when measles vaccine was introduced to countries, shortly thereafter, the childhood mortality rate plummeted for not only measles, but all childhood illnesses. And they thought, oh, that's very interesting. And they had actually done some studies with macaque monkeys that demonstrated sort of the same thing, that, this sort of immune system amnesia happens in other primates. So they did some long-term studies where they looked at infectious disease rates for other things. And sure enough, infection with measles causes a spike in childhood deaths from other diseases. So it's not just measles complications. It's all kinds of other stuff. And when the measles vaccine was introduced, you don't see those spikes. In fact, you see these things just plummet. And I know you can't see this, but you could see what's happening here. This thing is tailing off dramatically.
Yeah, and I want to just say, I mean, these are what we would consider generally developed nations. Right?
Yes.
So this is not like a study that was done in somewhere where the healthcare system is, horrible.
Right.
This is like England and Wales. This is Denmark, the U.S. I mean, this is areas where you would expect that people would have access to vaccinations and to a decent standard of healthcare. Right. Yeah.
And when they looked at what's happening in less developed nations, same thing's happening, where, the lack of...
Probably worse. I mean, I would guess that the numbers are even, more horrendous in an area where you have even less access to any sort of vaccination or any sort of, care.
Well, and one of the really interesting things that happens, too, is that one of the things that they kind of noticed in this is that the effect is more dramatic with female children.
That's weird.
It is very strange. But, yeah, it was particularly dramatic with female children.
It's really odd.
But they thought, okay, maybe it's not the measles. Maybe it's some way we're torturing the numbers here because of, immunizations. And maybe any immunization would show the same effect. So they tried it with the pertussis vaccine. And they manipulated the numbers the same way, did the same kind of statistical analysis and everything. It did not have the same effect. So it actually is the measles that's causing this increased mortality. And it goes away when you immunize. So get your measles vaccine.
Wow. Ugh, that's just disturbing. Yeah. Disturbing, but I guess good to know. The more you know.
Well, that and I think one of the things that's not really widely acknowledged, and I know the anti-vaxxers say it's just fear-mongering, but there's a specific kind of encephalitis that is caused by the measles vaccine, okay? And the kids that get this specific kind of encephalitis, they usually die within 3 years of contracting it, okay? It's not as rare as it was previously thought to be, and the risk of it extends for 6 to 8 years following measles infection. So this is not a trivial risk that kids face when they get the measles.
So about getting the measles or getting the vaccine?
Getting the measles.
Okay. So maybe I might have heard that wrong, but just to clarify.
So if you get the vaccine, you don't have to worry about.
I was like, wait a minute.
If you get the measles,
frightening too.
If you get the measles, you're at risk for this type of encephalitis for 6 to 8 years following infection with the measles. If you get the vaccine, you don't have to worry about that.
Wow.
You won't be at risk. So there.
I've been seeing stories of kids turning 18 and going and getting their own vaccines, which go kids.
Or even, there's a Reddit subthread for kids of anti-vaxxers who have gone on the internet and have realized, holy crap, I need to get my shots. And they are actually going on this place to find out where they can get their shots. And as long as they're of legal age to consent to medical treatment in whatever state they live in, they can get their shots without their parents' permission.
What was interesting was I saw that you had posted something about reactions, like parental reactions to it, which to me I think speaks volumes. And I think you were making the point that the reactions make a point as well. Some of the kids I read about, like their parents really didn't care. Like maybe it was their mom that was really into anti-vax and dad wasn't, just sort of went along. And so later when they did it, dad didn't care. It was just like, yeah, whatever, if you want to do it, do it. But the people that were freaking out, like the people whose parents freaked out, that reaction I don't understand, right?
Yeah.
Like even if I put myself in that mindset where I'm just like, I think this is a dangerous thing, right? Like I think it's a dangerous procedure. And so as a parent, I'm not going to allow this. And so that's what I do. But when the kid turns 18, it's not on you anymore.
Right.
And it's like if this is what the kid wants to do, the kid is now an adult and now understands the risk and is now going to do this. And it has really nothing to do anymore. You're not culpable anymore, so chill.
Right. But yeah, there was one mother who was taking her son's decision to get vaccinated as a personal insult. Like he was personally rejecting everything she had done for him.
Yeah, and it's like she wants her right to make these decisions about her kid respected, but she doesn't want to respect another adult's right to make those same decisions for themselves, right?
Right.
She wants her right to make that decision for somebody else to be respected, but she doesn't want to extend respect to another adult who says, I'm going to do this and only put myself at the risk.
Right.
Right? It's like, you know, I did not get.
I mean, I wonder what her reaction would be if he gets a tattoo or a body piercing. I mean,
I guess it depends on her position on, you know, it's like, because it's not her child's life, you know, clearly this is her extended life.
Right.
This is a vicarious existence. This thing is an extension of her, not her. It's not a separate human.
I mean, you know, if my 13-year-old son came to me and said, Mom, I want to get a tattoo, I'd be like, no, you can't get that tattoo right now. But, you know, when he's 18 and he's old enough to
plan your tattoo. Start working on your tattoo plan. And when you get old enough,
as much ink as you want when you're 18, but you're not getting a tattoo at 13, you know?
Yeah.
And I wouldn't consider that, you know, a rejection of my parenting or anything if he chooses to do that.
There's even things that I think are risky that if I had a kid and the kid engaged in, that I would be concerned. Like, I would just be like, oh my God, I'm going to have I can't watch you do this because this is too scary for me to watch it.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to, as long as I think, you know, unless I thought somehow the kid didn't
Right.
You know, it's like, but even then you still have to say, well, you know, I've told you what I think about it, and you still have to make your own decisions. I mean, people have to live their own lives and answer for their own choices, right? Let people take risks.